All right, welcome. Today we are cracking open the advanced playbook for what is, let's be honest, one of the toughest parts of the LSAT, reading comprehension. We're going to take the key strategies right out of Chapter 7 of LSAT Test Prep Mastery and turn them into a super focused video lesson to give you a serious edge. So let's just dive right in.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to decode what the LSAT challenge really is. Then, we'll get into a specific playbook for those comparative reading passages, talk about mastering dense texts, deconstruct some of the trickiest questions, learn how to dodge common answer traps, and finally, lay out your path to true mastery. Let's get started.
Okay, let's jump right in. What's the single biggest mistake people make on this section? It's thinking they just need to read faster. But here's the thing, you don't. The LSAT reading comp section is not a speed reading test. It's a structural reasoning test. You've got to learn to see the architecture, the blueprint behind all those words.
And this quote right here, this really captures the fundamental shift in mindset you need. See, top scorers aren't just reading faster. They're like text detectives. They're mapping out the structure of the argument, they're capturing the author's purpose, they're comparing different positions, and this part is absolutely critical. They pick answers that perfectly match the text's level of certainty and scope. That's the real key.
All right, let's get tactical and move to our first major strategy. We're going to start with the comparative reading passages. You know the ones, those dreaded dual passages that can just feel so overwhelming. But trust me, there is a complete, foolproof system to break them down.
This four-step playbook is your key to getting clarity. It's super simple. First, you just read passage A all by itself and figure out its main point. Easy enough. Then, and this part is a game changer, you read passage B, but you're looking at it through the lens of passage A. You're constantly asking, how does this relate? Step 3, you build a quick little comparison grid to lock in your understanding. And finally, you attack the questions in a specific order. This makes those tricky relationship questions way easier to handle.
Now, check this out. This table basically reveals the LSAT's recurring patterns. Seriously, the relationship between the two passages almost always fits into one of these buckets. This is your cheat sheet. So as you're reading passage B, you should be actively asking yourself, okay, is B supporting what A said? Is it disagreeing? Is it maybe just a specific example of A's big theory? Knowing these patterns ahead of time is a massive advantage.
All right, we've all been there, right? You hit one of those super dense passages on like 18th century legal theory or quantum physics, and your brain just kind of shuts down. Your eyes glaze over. Well, guess what? These texts are designed to be intimidating, but they have predictable structures that you can absolutely learn to dissect.
And this is so important. One size does not fit all. You can't read every passage the same way. You've got to adapt. So, if it's a law passage, your job is to track the competing arguments. For a science passage, you're literally just tracing the scientific method. What's the hypothesis? What was the method? What were the results? And for humanities, you're looking to distinguish between different schools of thought and, crucially, figuring out the author's own stance.
Okay, here's a super powerful tool that works on any dense passage, no matter the genre. It's called sentence surgery. So when you come across one of those monster sentences that takes up half the paragraph, don't panic. You just break it down. Circle words like however or although. Those are your pivot points. Box words like may versus always. That tells you exactly how certain the author is. It's a simple little technique that makes even the most tangled up writing totally manageable.
Okay, so we've got a handle on how to read the passages. Awesome. But, that's only half the battle, right? Now we've got to deconstruct the actual questions the LSAT is going to throw at you, especially those really tough advanced ones.
And just like with the passages, for every tough question type, there's a specific method of attack. The whole key is to first identify what kind of question you're looking at, and then you just execute the right play. So if it's a function question, you're looking for an answer that's a verb. What does this part of the passage do? If it's an analogy question, you have to ignore the topic and just mirror the logic. It makes the whole process systematic instead of just guessing. All right, now this is huge. Knowing what makes an answer right is obviously great, but on the LSAT, it can be even more powerful to know with total certainty what makes an answer wrong. The people who write this test rely on a set of very predictable traps, and right now, we're going to expose them. Think of this as your official catalog of wrong answer archetypes. Just about every tempting wrong answer you'll see is guilty of one of these flaws. You've got the classic degree upgrade. That's when the passage says some, but the answer choice says all. And oh man, the half right, half wrong answer is so sneaky. It starts out sounding perfect, and then the second half goes completely off the rails. Once you learn to spot these, you will stop falling for their tricks.
Now, this is a pro-level technique, and it is so powerful for getting unstuck. When you're down to two choices and you just can't decide, don't just sit there hoping you pick the right one.
Instead, I want you to actively hunt for the flaw in the one you think is wrong. Like literally say to yourself, okay, I think this one is wrong because it's an out-of-scope trap. Or, wait, this is a degree upgrade. If you can clearly name the flaw, you can cross it off with total confidence.
Okay, so we have the theory, we've got the strategies, we have all the playbooks. But how in the world do we put all this together under the crazy pressure of a 35-minute time section? Well, that all comes down to what we call elite execution. And that means timing, triage, and practice.
First things first, you absolutely need a deliberate plan for your time. You cannot just wing it and hope for the best. Here are two really solid models. Model A is the straightforward approach. You just divide your time evenly, about 8.5 minutes per passage. Model B is a little more strategic. You do your two best passage types first, bank those points and some time, and then you tackle the tougher ones. You've got to experiment with both of these to see what really works for you.
Look, understanding all these strategies is great, but it's not enough. You have to actually build the skill through repetition, and that means deliberate practice, not just doing problems. That post-mortem step right there, that's non-negotiable. For every single mistake you make, you need to identify exactly why you made it by tagging it with one of those trap categories we talked about. That right there is how you actually get better. Think of this as your training regimen.
Okay, let's bring it all home with the absolute must-knows. If you take away nothing else from our time today, remember these 5 things. 1. Read for structure and purpose, not just facts. 2. Use that grid to nail down the dual passage relationships. 3. Always match the scope and degree of the language in the passage. 4. Wrong answers have predictable flaws. Learn to spot them. And 5. Timing is a skill, and you have to practice it like one. Seriously, pin this to your wall.
So at the end of the day, this explainer has handed you the complete playbook straight from Chapter 7. You've got the strategies, you've got the tactics, and you've got the practice plan. The knowledge is officially yours now. So the only real question left is, what are you going to do with it? It's your turn to take these methods, practice them deliberately, and go out there and earn your mastery.